Welcome back to The Manual, a podcast where we talk about the stuff most men's podcasts are too afraid to touch. Today's episode is going to be wild, raw, and real. Buckle up. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to The Manual, and welcome back to this series on the nice guy. Today we're talking about radical responsibility and reclaiming power. And yeah, we're going to dig into those concepts and more deeply understand why the nice guy finds himself abdicating responsibility for his own life. And oftentimes, not that he lacks total responsibility, but oftentimes how that responsibility is misplaced. Before we do that, I'm going to turn it over to my resident nice guy, Nicholas. Nicholas Red, how the heck are you?
I'm feeling nice today, Joe. Feeling really good. We were just talking about before we pressed record that I said it's cold here in Kansas City, and winter is finally here. I said it must be negative 20 up there, and you were like, it's negative 20, negative 40 wind chill. And you did this morning with one of your kids the old boiling water out in the negative temperatures.
Yep.
Bro.
I just uploaded it with one of my favorite Nipsey Hussle songs as the background audio onto Instagram, so you can go check that out at my handle if you want, freedomcoach_Joe. But it's always a fun, we're not going to go outside probably at all today, so it's one of the few moments we stepped out on the deck. I don't know, everybody's been asking. We have 13 chickens at our house that live in a little chicken hut that I built out in the backyard. So roll the dice to figure out whether or not they live to see this weekend. How
do they stay heated in there?
They don't.
Nothing.
No heater. No, that from all the research I've done, and I'm sure there's probably people out there that would challenge this like anything else on Earth, but the opinion is as long as you have more than 6 chickens, their down feathers and body heat can keep themselves warm, provided that they learn how to do it.
Yeah.
So if you put a heat light lamp in their coop, usually they get used to having a heat lamp.
Yep.
And the danger is if your electricity goes out or the heat lamp burns out or whatever, all of a sudden there's a massive drop in the heat, and they haven't learned how to deal with that, and so then they'll freeze to death. So it's actually more dangerous from everything I've read, or the majority of what I've read online from experts on how to keep chickens. So no, we have 13 of them in a relatively small, it's a 3-story, whatever you call that, beams running across that they sleep on, and they huddle together. And
dead of winter, how many are they producing a week? Or
very little.
Okay.
So it's all, now this goes back to conversations you and I have had on sleep and light, and it's all based on how much light exposure they get.
Sure.
Is what triggers the on-off. So you can manipulate that by having a light in their coop from 6 a.m. and then turn it back on during the dark hours in winter. So last winter I had a light in there. I'm not sure why, but the light in there has kept burning out. I have an LED light, so it should stay around, but I got too many things going on, so I haven't gone out there again. This would be my 3rd time to fix why it's turning off. So we've just sort of surrendered this winter as a egg-laying occasion. But during the summer, we probably get 4 to 6 a day from the 13 of them, so it's a pretty good output. And the winter would be a little bit less, like 3 to 4 a day, if I had that light out there.
Mm-hmm.
It would take them a couple weeks to get used to that on-off. There's one out there that's still laying like every couple of days, but the rest of them are not producing. So it's pretty fun. We get a variety of, they all look the same. Now we have 3 that are sort of blonde-looking chickens, yellow-looking chickens, but the rest of them are brown, but they produce a variety of color eggs. So turquoise, green, light green.
Let's go. Turquoise.
Blue, dark brown, light brown. The majority of them are light brown, but so it's a fun exercise, and the kids, if I can get them excited about it, enjoy going out there to take care of them in the summer. Usually, like most animals, Dad's the one that does everything for them in the winter, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Enough about chickens.
Come on.
Yeah, that was
talk about the other chickens.
Let's talk about real chickens. Nice guys who abdicate responsibility.
Yeah.
So Our proposal or hypothesis for our conversation today is that most nice guys pride themselves on being responsible. But here's the question. Are you actually responsible for yourself or just the well-being of everyone else?
That's really good.
Right? And we talked last week about the origin story of nice guy fears, lies, beliefs that drive nice guy behavior, and how it's always found in your upbringing, in your childhood years, in your story.
Yeah.
And it's a learned experience, a learned way of existing, of behaving in order to find safety and being okay. So our core theme for today is that responsibility isn't about blame, but it's about ownership, right? It's not about blaming others for forcing you to not take responsibility for yourself, but ownership.
Yeah.
This is where you find yourself today. If you find yourself, again, we'll talk about themes related to nice guys and macho jerks, but if you find yourself in either camp, it's good to own the fact that that's me. And as we continue to give you skills and tools to be able to work back to center, the old idea of that virtue is always found in the middle. As you find your way back to center, it's about ownership, owning the fact that, hey, you know what? I over-leverage myself to make sure that everyone else is okay. And what we're not saying is to become a macho jerk that gets his own needs met and in the process leaves a trail of tears in everybody else's life. That we're not saying that you shift focus there, but we're going to propose a new way, a centered way of living today when it comes to real responsibility. Nick, do you want to add some flesh to this idea of responsibility? You had a really great, before we hopped on, really great connection between this sort of responsibility for others and responsibility for self and the psychological idea of codependency.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, when as you said, it's a misplaced responsibility, particularly with regards to other people in your life. And the nice guy is not okay. And I think we talked about this last week, when others are not okay. He's uncomfortable with that. Others' negative emotions cause him to very much feel those similar negative emotions himself, and he cannot be okay unless they're doing, quote, okay. And so that is misplaced responsibility. So he lives in fear. I mean, so much of it is with regards to women, especially. Oftentimes, certainly the first relationship with any boy or any girl even is with their mom, starting in utero. And then from an early age, we talk about this in our system on the role of the mother. Even the first year of their life, their central nervous system there is very tied still, even though they're physically disconnected to their mother. And growing up, oftentimes there can be this enmeshment. And certainly if a mom hasn't done her own work of emotional regulation and attunement, and she gets a lot of her validation from the boy. And that might be you. That might, if you're listening to this, that might be your relationship with your mom, a little, enmeshed, or she's overprotective and she tries to get her emotional needs met. If she hasn't from somebody else, ideally her husband, she might try to do that with you. And there's this weird enmeshment, and then that can translate to other women in your life. And honestly, this goes all the way back to the beginning in Genesis with Adam and Eve. And Adam, immediately after the fall, God comes, he's like, where are you? And he goes, hey, what happened? Did you eat the fruit? And he goes, the woman that you gave me. First of all, God, it's your fault and it's her fault. He immediately abdicates responsibility. And there's a lot we could probably talk about just scripturally, and I want to make it more practical in our own lives. But there's certainly scripture's telling us a lot of stuff, even with Abram and Sarah. It says that Abram listened to the voice of Sarah rather than the voice of God. So really, if we're talking about it being a God-fearing, masculine man, he's the one who listens to the voice of his father and listens to his true voice within and not to the voice of others around them. And there's these examples in Scripture where Abram, in fear, doesn't listen to God. He listens to, the Scripture says, to the voice of Sarah. Similarly to Adam, from the beginning. And this kind of sin of Adam that is really permeates through a lot of men's hearts, certainly the passivity. is Adam listened to the voice of and abdicates his responsibility. There's an argument, right? I mean, does the fall happen with Eve taking a bite of the fruit? We say it's an apple. Who knows? I think it was a fig. Or did it happen with Adam? Paul says all sin came through Adam. So what does that tell us? He had a realm to protect and to guard, to have a fierce mastery over this garden, and he abdicated that, and he listens to the voice. So there's this really interesting dynamic at play that we see in Scripture with men relating to women and in fear, and there's a lot kind of I'm just throwing out here, but particularly this enmeshment or this responsibility for others really is highlighted with regards to the double X chromosome out there and fear of not having their approval or fear of them not being okay with us, and certainly it'll play out with your spouse and even with your kids if you don't learn to step into this and to reclaim ownership and authority over your life. So I kind of threw out a lot there.
Yeah.
Pull some stuff out of that, Joe?
Yeah, for our listeners, I want to define, you threw out some big terms there, and I want to define them in layman's terms so that everybody understands what it is that you're saying, because I think what you're saying is gold and super important for understanding what true responsibility, getting back to center, looks like for the nice guy. To understand the tools or the frameworks, principles that you need to use to be able to return to center, you have to understand where you're coming from. And some of this, again, ties back to our conversation last week about origin story. You threw out a good number of times this idea of enmeshment. Well, what is that in layman's terms? Enmeshment is the idea that in a archetypal relationship between mother and child, mom is okay, has what she needs,
right,
and provides without any need to get anything in return for the child. I'm okay. I'm here to help you be okay, right? And thinking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that's largely about physical needs. But then there's also some of the emotional dynamics of needs. I'm here to respond when you cry. I'm here to soothe you and help you calm down. When you talked about the central nervous system of the child, then that gets into attunement, being another big word that you threw out there. What is attunement? You talked about this in the first years of a child's life. They have no ability to calm down on their own, right? And you've shared some great stories, I think, in this context on our podcast before, about what that's looked like for you as a father. And I'm sure you could share even more stories with Teresa as a mother of attuning to your children to help them calm down, right? The scene of a child losing it and a parent escalating beyond the level of the child is one familiar to all of us, right?
Right.
An angry response to a child's emotional outburst versus I'm okay, I can be calm and handle the weight of your emotional outburst, and I'm inviting you to come back down to my level. Versus what we too often do as parents, which is I'm going higher, expecting you to go lower when it comes to emotional regulation. I'm expecting you to calm down by me yelling at you to calm down. That's not how attunement works. Attunement works by you inviting the child to calm by you being calm.
Totally.
Right? So that's attunement. Enmeshment, going back to that initial, so I talked about how it's supposed to work. Enmeshment is when, as a child grows up, the mom needs the child to perform in certain ways in order to be okay. I can't have you overwhelmed right now because I'm overwhelmed. You need to take care of me, right? And this happens for dad as well as mom. But because mom is the strongest attachment bond relationship that a young child has, girl or boy, by the very nature of, like everything you talked about, growth in utero, dependency on mom for all physical needs early in life, etc., that bond is particularly strong, that they're particularly attuned to mom and need that. Jordan Peterson says up until about 3 years old, they're in many ways utterly dependent, less and less over time on the physical
3 years
needs, but certainly on the emotional needs, the attunement need.
Totally.
For the mother in particular. So that's the second thing that you said. And then getting to this idea of codependency, right? That if enmeshment is occurring, That if I'm as a young child, in order to get what I need, I'm learning that I have to navigate how to make mom okay in order for me to get my needs met. I need you to calm down so that I can make your lunch. I need you to calm down so that I could do X, Y, or Z. Stop doing whatever that is so I can be fine. Right? And so I start performing in order to get my needs met. I start learning codependent behavior, which is I'm responsible for the emotional well-being of another. Fundamentally, the way I've seen this in myself and in other guys is I need you to be okay so that I can be okay. I think in early marriage relationships, I've experienced this and seen in others, one of the most important tools that I've had to learn how to develop, and my wife has had to learn how to develop, in order to be able to create a productive relationship and to have friction and communication, disagreement, et cetera, and to do it well, is differentiation. Here's another big word. What is differentiation? Which is essentially you can be not okay and I don't have to come with you.
Yeah.
Right? I can be fine. I can be calm.
Right.
And that's not used as a leverage point of, well, then it's your problem. But there's the I'm doing okay and you're dysregulated. I'm regulated, you're dysregulated. So I can be the one to attune to you and help you come back. Right? Or, you know what, you're not okay. I don't have to figure out how to make you okay. You can figure that out. What I see so often in my own relationship is that escalating behavior starts with one person becoming dysregulated and the other person going up to their level. Mm-hmm. Right? And now all of a sudden, I mean, very often in our relationship, it was explosive firework type arguments coming from that place. One person wasn't okay and the other person came up to their level, and then the other person goes higher and they go up higher, and it's this step, and all of a sudden both of you are at a 10. And there's no coming down from that because it's just survival mode at that point.
Yeah.
Right, so differentiation is just, again, to reiterate, and you can add whatever is on your mind, Nick, to any of these 4 ideas: enmeshment, attunement, codependency, or differentiation, is the capacity to be okay when the other is not.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
What would you add?
Yeah, just in the, I mean, just I like what you're saying here, like in the enmeshed relationship, which a lot of nice guys have enmeshed relationships. Connection exists. Like enmeshment for a 0-year-old, a 1-month-old is really important. Connection exists. And differentiation almost doesn't. But in an enmeshed relationship where it's disordered and you're more than just an infant, connection exists, but that differentiation doesn't. So really, I would say it's certainly emotional and absolutely spiritual as well, where really enmeshment is when I don't know where you begin, or you end and I begin. It's really an identity thing too. It's confusing as hell. This inner world, like how do I separate myself from your inner world? And the nice guy, particularly when we're talking about taking responsibility for other people, gets so caught up in their other world. And I think, I just appreciate you sharing about the marriage piece, because it is highlighted in marriage to the nth degree, where, I mean, certainly there's a spiritual component of the two become one. I have a mentor of mine that used to say the two become one, but which one? But where there's a very real connection, and you're living so close to each other, but this need to grow in my ability to take ownership and responsibility for only what I can, and be okay with the other person being okay with where I'm at or not with where I'm at, and vice versa. And so, I mean, I think we've talked about this before with regards to the nice guy, maybe last week, where even just like vocalizing how it's played out with me and Teresa both ways. And I would say the vast majority of our relationship, she's always been the more grounded, emotionally attuned. We've all got our crap, but she's got less baggage from her history than I do. And so I'm grateful for that. But one of the ways it's played out, this kind of tension or this dysregulation, you could say, is when I express even desires or dreams. Because I'm a visionary, I get excited and I throw something out and I'm super excited about it. She has learned that for her, she needs to not freak out about this new like crazy idea I throw out. So even just learning to express desires or express dreams or express needs, and for the other person as well to express them. And sometimes, this might sound crazy for the married nice guys out there, you cannot meet every, I don't know if this is controversial or not, but I believe it. You cannot, and you're not supposed to meet every single need of your spouse, 100%. You can't meet everything, all of her needs. And so being okay with even her expressing desires and needs and not being able to meet. Does that make sense, that last piece, Joe?
Yeah, I think what came to mind for me as you're saying that, I think it's Peterson again said that marriage is the ultimate exercise of disconnection and reconnection. I mean, it teaches attunement and has the opportunity to teach attunement to an unattuned person, which is the beautiful thing in a marriage relationship. Yeah. Any deep relationship has the capacity or potential, but something happens in the difference of the sexes when two people commit their life together for better, for worse, move in together, share everything, every dimension of their life, physical, emotional, mental, sexual, and all of that is in the stew. And what came to mind is, as you said this, is when one of the, I think, the central fears that's magnified in the nice guy is that when your partner becomes disconnected or is not doing well and is not okay, the fear is, what if they don't come back?
Yeah.
Right? What if they don't come back to being okay? And like you're saying, like, if I go get them and try to figure out how to get them back to being okay, and I put myself in that responsibility of I have to figure out how to make them okay, we're operating out of a place of fear, as if I don't, they won't.
Yeah.
Right? So I have to bring them back to be okay, because again, going back to that idea of codependency, is I need you to be okay so I can be. And that's a learned nervous system response, and then a set of behaviors that I find myself operating in, which ultimately negatively impacts relationships and negatively affects myself. Like you're saying, early in life, it was reinforced behavior. It worked. It worked to reestablish connection. And usually in adult life, there are elements of it does work to some degree. I remember early in Krista and I's marriage, we went and saw a marriage therapist, this crazy guy, this hilarious Albert Einstein looking dude.
Let's go.
With one eye that looked over here and
a lazy eye?
Yeah, would walk from his house because he didn't have Wi-Fi at his home, so he'd go to a library to meet with us virtually. I forget what state he lived in.
How'd you find this guy?
It's such a goofy. we had some through our health insurance. We had some
awesome,
like not a better help, but something like that.
Sure.
And so it's just like a randomly assigned therapist. He just is a wild guy, but I'll never forget one of the things that he said when he was helping us navigate some of our conflict patterns is that for Krista, my wife, that she would rather have dysregulated intensity than absence.
Well, say that again.
She would rather have, because usually she was the aggressor and I was the avoider.
Okay.
Right? It was more within my nature to want things to calm down immediately, to not escalate.
Right.
And she was more likely to escalate an argument. And what he said, which really helped me see her, is that you experience a lack of connection at your baseline when things are okay. Joe's gone. And you would rather have escalated connection.
Interesting.
It feels more like connection than losing me emotionally, mentally. So oftentimes her escalation was an attempt to get me to see you're gone.
Yeah.
And I can't get access to you unless I escalate.
Interesting.
Right? And I needed to learn how to I mean, so much of me going through my own process, and we talk about what we do with guys in freedom groups. They're all generic skills and tools about learning how to live in reality, to live present, to stop escaping. I'd spent so much of my life escaping, and escaping wasn't just a momentary act with porn or masturbation, and then I come back to reality fully present and ready to engage again. I'd go days of avoidant behavior in many facets of my life, avoiding the pain of work, avoiding the pain of caring for my children, avoiding potential pain in my marriage and relationship. And everybody experienced that. And I got feedback to that end from many different people. And so learning how to stop avoiding and learn to live in reality has helped to a great degree move me back and then not become so defensive or reactive when she says, hey, you're gone right now. I don't have access. I don't have connection with you. Can you come back to center? And when she asked me, reflecting on, okay, so she asked that of me, do I just move back to center because I want her to be okay, for things not to escalate, and because I fear escalation, and so I'll move back to center for her? No, I am the one who's chiefly impacted negatively by my avoidance, right? And so her seeing that in me, I've learned to experience that as a helpful mirror to say, you're doing that thing that harms you. What can you do right now to calm down or to come back to the center so that we can be together? Versus, again, like I said, me doing it out of fear. Okay, well, I'll just do what you want. I'll perform like I'm okay so that you can be okay. Because that's not what she's asking of me. She's saying, you seem off. What's going on there? And inviting me to look. And so often my reaction to that would be defensive, further avoidance, leave me alone, get out of my room, type aggression or behavior, rather than thanks for seeing me. That is what's going on. And I do want to figure out how to come back to rest. I do want to figure out how to come back into myself. So, and again, that's like self-awareness and love for oneself that she benefits from, rather than so often our patterns of behavior for her, that escalation in order to have connection in escalation over disconnection in avoidance, was learning how to let me be avoidant and not for her needing to be okay based on how I was doing, but then also offering a mirror for me of, hey, this is what's going on, come back to center. And that's how is that related to being a nice guy in this context? I think ultimately comes back to that. Is this out of fear for me losing the relationship? Or is it out of a place of love? First and foremost for myself is I want to learn how to be okay, to be at rest, to be able to learn how to calm down on my own and then offer that to her as a gift. And I need her to help me learn how to do that. In the context of relationships. So those are the two things that strike me, that disconnection, reconnection exercise that marriage provides. And that can look simply like husband goes off to work or wife goes off to work and then comes back home. That's disconnection, physical, and to some degree mental and emotional, and then they come back. That's a small exercise every time about how do you reconnect? What does that look like? And very often, especially early in marriage relationships, and to the extent that it doesn't get remedied on until later in relationship, that looks like a mirror of how you learn to disconnect and reconnect in early family life, growing up when you were a child.
That's good. That's good, Joe. Wow, that was a lot of really good stuff. The other piece that I know we want to talk about today with regards to this virtue of responsibility and taking responsibility, like this being one of the foundational virtues that we want to focus on. If you're trying to leave the nice guy syndrome and break free from it and reestablish like really your true self, is the other piece that we want to talk about is this victim mentality and How do you could say, kill the victim mentality, transform the victim mentality, get yourself out of the tyranny of being a victim. I want to talk a little bit about that with you guys. That I know for so much of my life, and I have definitely gotten really far in removing myself from this. Even just, Joe, this week, and you can maybe share a little bit about it in a bit here. Something happened and you said, I'm not a victim. And it's really important just to remember that, because victimhood and masculinity cannot coexist. They are polar opposites. The internal scripts of the victim, something happens and the general question is why? It's not fair. Life's not fair. It's this self-pity talk. No one appreciates me. I always get the short end of the stick. And the crazy thing about this, so many of these things are self-fulfilling prophecies. Like if you want to find something, you're going to find it. If you have a particular worldview and a lens through which you're looking at something, that's going to certainly create that thought, that frame is going to certainly create emotional states, which is going to drive your behavior, and then people are going to start treating you like you don't want to be treated, and life's going to continue to not be fair, and you're always going to get the short end of the stick, and people are going to start not appreciating you because you have these scripts. And I just want to say, as you look at your life, and I know for me, there are moments in my life where I was actually a victim. I was a victim of somebody else's rage and violence. Like that's true, actually. But there's a difference between like you are actually a victim and living under these scripts and this victim mentality, because victimhood, it's all over our culture. I get how it's seductive. It's like there's like an allure even to this self-pity bullshit. And there's an allure to complaining. And there's an allure to all these things. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, we've all experienced it. They're completely disempowering. We like castrate ourselves. We surrender our power, our authority. And we put ourselves, certainly even just we've talked about complaining, shrinks your hippocampus, gives you a narrow vision and doesn't broaden the context and open you up to possibilities. It just helps. The negative appraisal will shut down your appraisal cortex, and you're going to continue to live in this victim, narrow, myopic kind of worldview. But with what we would say masculine ownership and the integrated man that we want to become, that we're going through in this course here, the series is, the masculine ownership asks the question, like, what's my move? What can I control? How do I want to respond versus just reacting? And throughout this conversation, I've been thinking of in 12 steps, and it's not just a 12-step prayer, but it's the serenity prayer is a powerful prayer that I pray from time to time. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change. Okay, like other people's emotions, like other people's problems, like most things outside of me. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So last thing I'll just say, what's been helpful for me to break through this victim mindset really is to, for those close to me, my spouse being one of them, Joe, you being one of them, to know that this is a battle and can kind of, like, in a really gentle way, call it out. Like, hey, an example I recently shared of like Teresa, I kind of go into this victim mentality of like, oh no, I can't do what I want to do. She'll say, what do you want? Mm-hmm. Are you, and she'll do it in such a good way where she's like, are you being the nice guy right now? You're not a victim. What do you want? Express what you want. What do you need? And let's get out of this. It's not fair. Woe is me. So the victim mentality is something that I think a lot of guys struggle with, and it's super seductive, but it'll ultimately rob you of your potency and your power, and it'll just keep you there.
Yeah. Yeah. So the two examples for me this week: on Wednesday, I had a kind of a crazy day, running around, leading my seminary group remotely in the afternoon, tons of moving parts in my day, and our furnace goes out in the morning. And it didn't just go out, the flame didn't come on, and it filled our house with natural gas. And so it was like kind of emergent. Krista's on ChatGPT looking up, what could this be from, and so this is, and my immediate, overwhelm was right around the corner. I literally said to her, in the kitchen as as she was about to head off to work, and I said to her, like, I don't need this right now.
Yeah.
Right? That is my
Yeah.
operating frame.
Totally.
I don't need this right now.
Totally.
I got too much stuff going on.
Right.
This problem is too much for me to handle. And then I found myself, literally, I said that out loud to her. And then I said, you know what? Actually, I don't want to think that way.
Yeah, that's so good, Joe.
This isn't too much for me to handle.
Yeah.
I can figure out how to do this. I'll figure it out before you come home and take care of it.
Wow.
Like, we just talked about off the top of this episode, like -20 today, a -40 wind chill. And there's all these, I'll spare the details in time, but I won't. We have a homeowner warranty that when you fill out a report, it takes them like 3 days to come out. And so if I went through that, which would be much cheaper than going through somebody else, we wouldn't have heat right now. We'd be heating our house with the fireplace like we did it in the fall the last time the furnace went out, and the electric heaters. And that wouldn't work today because it was 20s and 30s back then.
Right.
It's -20 now. And so there's all this ammo for me to say I can't deal with this. And if I ran with it, would have been a massive trigger to get me to cope. Go use porn masturbation to get back to being okay, because this is too much for you to handle. And the problem is big enough that at some point I have to figure out how to do it, but it would have been stressful and arduous, and it would have put me in a terrible mood, and I wouldn't have moved on from it for probably several days.
Right.
So that occurs, and
wow.
I took a step that I didn't know was the right step to make. I didn't really know what to do when your house fills with natural gas, but I called the emergency line for our natural gas provider, and they came out, and they also have a sister home warranty program, and I ended up switching to that program to get money off from him fixing the problem immediately while he was here, and it's a better home warranty than the one we currently have. And so it kind of turned out to, like, I was excited about the end result. I fixed it immediately.
Yeah.
I overcame the problem. I saw myself ride the wave of anxiety and overwhelm, came out the other side, and the day finished well. The group in the afternoon was great. Things worked out. Timing worked out really nicely. There's also that sort of like, he's here doing all of his sniffer tests while I'm watching the clock. Like, okay, I got an hour and 15 minutes until my group. This has got to be done. I need to pay for it. Moving kids around, and so all of it worked out. And my disposition, because I shifted my frame from one of victimhood to this is my responsibility.
Yeah.
And I can do it. I can find a way. Helped me stay grounded and present, and what's the right next thing I need to do. Actually, this home warranty hasn't been a good experience. And then later that night, I spent literally an hour on the phone waiting for somebody to answer from this home warranty company. And then you've seen me do this before on a call, but literally they don't take no for an answer. Hey, I'd like to cancel my subscription. Well, what if we offered you 35? Can you imagine yourself in the situation where you're without a home warranty and something happens, and we're hiring people very frequently around your area that you'll get better service in the near, so they know the problem why people are canceling and trying to handle those objections before you even give them. And I just kept saying, I would like to cancel my subscription. Please email me when you're done. Okay, and then she repeats the same spiel. This is my final offer. I can offer it at $20 a month instead. We were paying $60. I can offer it $20 a month. We'd love to keep you on. You've been such a loyal customer for 4 years. No, I'd like to cancel my subscription. Okay, final offer, $15 a month.
No way.
I'm not sure you heard me. I would like to cancel my subscription. Please email. So literally an hour. Can I put you on hold for 3 minutes? No. I would like you to cancel my subscription. And then I reminded her that you and I just dealt with this last year. The FTC, I think, is the governing body that now any subscription service has to make canceling as easy as signing up. So technically what they're doing is illegal by allowing you to sign up through an app but not allowing you to cancel through an app. So I let her know that was the case and that I'd like her to cancel immediately. And I was technically in the contract till May, and I canceled the subscription. Well, she comes back on after basically, I was like, fine, but I'm going to put on a timer and make sure. She was like, can I just put you on hold for 3 minutes? And I was like, great, I have a timer on, 3 minutes, ready, set, go. So she goes off and comes back in 2 minutes. Okay, you're all canceled, and I made sure that the department, our accounting, paused it. You're basically, the rest of your warranty is forgiven, so you don't have to pay through May for a service you're not using. Awesome, thank you. Goodbye. And they sent me an email saying it was canceled and everything's good. And like those things I would have avoided to the last possible second, and then hated every second because of my frame of mindset.
Yep.
The one you're talking about is we might have to move from the house we're currently at, from a situation that we put ourselves in, and there's a temptation to feel like a victim. And in doing all of that, it certainly wasn't perfect. And one of the things I'm not great at is communication. It's something you've asked me to do, operating not out of your, I've seen you leaning out of your nice guy and leaning into, this is what I need from you. Like, I need your calendar to reflect your actual life. I need to know.
I feel so exposed right now. I was feeling, dude, this is a perfect example. Like, I was so resistant to talking to you about that.
Yeah, and it's so good because my immediate inclination is to feel defensive.
Sure.
You don't know what I'm dealing with.
Sure.
Just ask me. You'll just have to text me, and your request is reasonable. Hey, can your calendar just tell me what I need to know so I don't have to check with you every time because this is hard?
Sure.
Totally reasonable request to make. And we've had it twice in the past 2 weeks, right? And you leaning out of the nice guy and you saying that to me, well, you actually, I don't think you have said that. Maybe either this container of me knowing about you has like magnified, like he's just asking for what he needs. That is well within his right, and it's certainly not an unreasonable request. And there's this avoidant part of me of putting that on last second of, hey, this home popped up that my wife really wants to go look at, and I have a jam-packed 2 days. This is really the only hour that'll work for that. And then I forget to, it wasn't malicious, like in terms of like, I don't want Nick to know that I'm not doing that, or that I'm doing that rather, because both of us have personal life stuff. You just had a situation yesterday, and like that it had nothing to do with me trying to hide from you, but I didn't put it on my calendar. Then we had a meeting that had to get shifted, and it looked open. So we had this conversation of like, your calendar looks open, but you can't do it. Where that you brought that to me. Yeah, I know. This just came up yesterday. It was the only time that will work, and I needed to say sorry. You had just asked me to do this, and I didn't do that for this thing last week, and I didn't do it for this thing, and now we're in the same situation, and so you're doing it again. And that's where, like, again, bringing it back out of just storytelling to the nice guy reality and landing the plane is relationships. Nice guy syndrome is all about how you operate within the context of relationships. And the beautiful opportunity is to lean into relationships. And the hard thing that, like you just said, feeling exposed as I'm bringing this up and feeling like, oh, should I do this again? That happens. There is friction to being able to asking for what you need, right? Yeah. I want to remedy this situation. How to do it. So in the context
it doesn't mean you're going to get what you express a desire for, but the act of doing it is really important for you, the person, to get out of that.
My response to you, which is certainly not the response, because I do want to please you and for you to be happy with me. We work together every day. Like, I want you to like me. My response to you is, I will try.
Right.
I don't want to over promise. I want to be honest with you of, I'm bad at this. This is a place that I struggle, and we're going to experience friction, but I do want to get better at it. Not entirely just to serve you, but to get better at it for myself, because communication affects all my relationships that I have in life. And this is a great opportunity in our business relationship and friendship to be seen in that, to overcome the resistance and the hurdles, and to make meaningful progress. What I told you in looking at this house, the situation that we're in, and why we're looking at a different house is, like, yeah, we have to go look at this house. Like, I got a ton of stuff going on right now, but I said to you, like, I'm not a victim.
Yeah.
Like, I want to use this as an opportunity to put myself and my family in a better position.
Yep.
rather than we have to do this.
Yep.
We're just going to figure out how to do this, and that sucks as the disposition going into it. Now there are legitimate boundaries in our family life and work and stuff that we have to be honest about, the capacity to be able to make a move like that in this time and season. Being, again, communicating about that stuff, being honest. I mean, one of the things I told Krista is, like, normally I would drive this bus. This is what I told her yesterday. Normally I would be the one to drive this bus and find us a new place. I don't have the capacity for that right now. So if this is something that you seem to have energy and capacity for, and I would really appreciate if you drive the ship on this for our family, and I'll come with you. That's me asking for what I need, because normally she gives me an idea and I run. Hey, I'd like this bathroom remodeled. Okay, well, she's not going to remodel the bathroom. I got to start demo tomorrow because she wants it done. That's how I've operated before. So learning to be able to understand, like, hey, to be able to hold in tension all the other things I have in my life right now, this is what I need to be able to make tangible practice. And if we get into that house, I'll do the work to remodel it, to fix it up, to get it to be better, talk to contractors, do all that sort of stuff that she doesn't do or doesn't want to do, but drive it, like looking for houses, figuring out what you want. Like, she wants to do that and she likes to do that. Okay, can you drive that component? So we'll land the plane here today for hopefully these stories are examples. What we talked about at the top is a helpful container for what does it look like to step into responsibility for your own life, for your own emotional life, and how it relates to relationships around you. Next week, we're going to continue our discussion on the nice guy and go deeper on some different areas and topics to helpfully continue to give you some tools and practical tactics to be able to do this. Our encouragement is notice when you're acting or operating like or thinking like a victim. Notice when you hear the voice of entitlement, especially entitlement thoughts to get an illegitimate need or an illegitimate act to fill a legitimate need. So acting out in a unhelpful way. I deserve to feel good because of what you're depriving yourself of, and figure out what do I need right now, and then learn how to give that to yourself so that you can continue to give to others and be the kind of heroic man that we all want to become. All right, lots of things.
All the things.
Just recapping the message. Responsibility is the father of the masculine virtues, right? The man you want to become will only show up when you stop outsourcing your life, step into responsibility, and everything starts to change. That's our invitation for you today. Figure out how to live in the middle. If you like practical help and support, especially if you experience porn and masturbation as a coping behavior for your nice guy, a freedom group could be a great place for you to be able to do that work. We'd love to hop on a discovery call with you. Share this episode with a guy in your life that you think could benefit from it, and leave a review and subscribe. And we will see y'all later. Peace. We got Bro Logan. See you over there.
Wow, I texted him we'll be there in 6 minutes. I said we're going to be 10 minutes late.
Okay.
All right, see you in 5.